Hey YouTube, welcome to the video. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Get a sound check if someone comes in. How's everyone doing on this fine Saturday afternoon? In November, we're headed for Thanksgiving coming up. It's the time of year here in the United States where, hey Thirsty Rabbit, welcome to the stream, thanks. Hey Tom Patterson, welcome to the stream, thanks for the sound checks, guys. I'm always, back of my mind, I'm always concerned that the sound is messed up. Hey Joseph, welcome to the stream. How's Joseph doing? How are the islands doing? Are you guys ready for Thanksgiving? Do they even really celebrate Thanksgiving much in the islands? It's kind of interesting how this American holiday has kind of spread around the world. Most people in most countries don't really have the same I don't know, manifest destiny that the U.S. had in its history. So it doesn't really equate so much to some people. Joseph says, looking to be moving to Vermont soon. Awesome, man. You're going to go from warm to cold in Vermont. Man, they are getting some serious winters up there. But it will be good to have you back in the continental U.S., man. I'm not sure it's... Being in Vermont is kind of on one side of the country, but it will still be easier to get to all the events, probably, from Vermont than it will be from the islands. I guess I may have missed out on some information that pertains to you choosing Vermont to move to. I haven't caught a stream. We've been really busy in our life here the last, well, this is the season when family stuff comes up, and we also just have gone through a stretch here where we've had car trouble and have purchased a vehicle, so we've been really busy here with just our normal everyday lives. So we ended up getting a 2017 Toyota Camry. I'm beginning to wonder if it's going to be too low to the ground for two older people, but I think we'll get used to it eventually. It's a remarkable vehicle, and they're built in Kentucky, so it's, even though it's a Toyota, it's locally built. That sounds exciting, Joseph, to be moving to Vermont. I'm going to have to get back on your channel and check out what information is available there about that move, if you've got any information available there. And I must admit, I haven't perused your channel in at least a week, so I need to get over there and check up on you. And I would advise anyone in the stream that if you haven't checked out the people in this stream, I think you would do well to look up their channels. Many of them are avid YouTubers. Many of them have a great deal of videos out and offer a wonderful font of information for fish keepers. And um, Joseph is a person that I know personally. I've actually spent a little over a week in Joseph's company in Peru, and it was wonderful. Um, uh, Joseph is a warm and intelligent human being, and I think you would do well to spend time watching his videos to get to know him better. Um, he he has done a remarkable job breeding and keeping alive the line of blue tetras that we came across in Peru and managed to collect. We collected probably 200 of them, but they didn't survive the shipping very well. And Joseph got most of the, well, a good portion of the ones that did survive. I also got them, but my setup, the way I had my 55-gallon tank set up with a lot of flow in it, Joseph has over 100 now. Yep. I continue to be amazed and jealous, Joseph. Started with 16. There you go. And I think I had 20. I think 20 survived. And I also got a secondary shipment of close to 16 or 17 of those survived too. So I've had 30 of them and managed to kill them all. Every last one that came in died in my care. But Joseph managed to figure out a way to get them to breed, and he is producing them now. His tanks set up is producing them. I think it's a low water movement setup that Joseph has got. That I set the tank up for gold green plecos and a lot of high water motion. Joseph's working on tank number 4 now. Yeah, that's really amazing, Joseph. I'm proud of you that you have had such great luck with them. How do you plan on transporting them to Vermont? That's one thing. To be with Amber. Awesome, Joseph. How do you plan to transport your setup? Then I have to make fry tank for each of those colonies. Yep. How do you plan to get them to the States? Are you going to box them up and mail them to Amber and then let Amber hold them until you've got yourself set up? Or I guess I need I need to watch videos to see that process. I will be sending my plants first. Amber will set up tanks, and I will send fish next. Joseph, have you done any checking on the water parameters where Amber is? And the difference between your water in the islands and that water? I know you've got a huge RO set up and that you use mostly RO, so I'm sure that Amber can do the same. I guess I'm kind of interested in what the TDS is, what you're getting out of your RO unit. Mine is producing. I will be going up ahead of the fish and setting up an RODI. Awesome. Um, I'm I'm getting about 26. Nisi says that was my question. I'm sure she'll acclimate the fish just fine though. Yeah, I'm not quibbling on that end. I'm my RO unit is producing water that is about 26 now, and my I get 0 out of my RODI. Okay, well you must change filters better than I do. I think I think because of the way my unit is set up, that I stress the membrane on my uh, membrane canister. But I have to change filters every 3 or 4 weeks. Yep, that's what I have not been doing. I want to eventually get my Peru fish accustomed to my 200 250 TDS water. So I'm naturally allowing the TDS of my water to rise by my filters being less and less effective, I guess, is a way to put it. Because eventually, what I'd like to be able to do is just use tap water on my my local water on my fish, and eventually it's not. EC says same here. We change the RODI filter when we clean out the water softener. We figure it's easier to take all the house water sources at the same time. Yeah, I just the idea that I am going to have to use RO water on those Peru fish for the rest of their lives without ever reaching a point where they are on tap water um, just doesn't sit really well with me. We talk about don't fight your water. Well, an RODI is a way to not fight your water in the sense that it will put out water of a certain consistency, and that water will be the same pretty much every time you use it. But mine is slowly, the filters are, uh, membranes are clogging a little bit, and it's allowing a slightly higher TDS each time I make water. So I've been watching it carefully, and I'm just slowly bringing up the TDS. I think the TDS in my Peru tanks is around 60 now, and that's getting high enough where the fish are starting to become acclimatized to harder water. AHC Aqua, welcome to the stream. Thinking of putting a tap filter on the sink for top-offs, having trouble hatching angel eggs. Yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag, Tom, because when discus were originally brought into the country, they felt like discus could not breed in water with calcium in it or with a higher amount of calcium in it. And um, eventually, discus became discus became acclimatized to higher calcification levels in water and were able to start breeding And now most of the lines that you can buy from breeders in the United States are, they'll do fine in 200 TDS water. They are just as accustomed to that. If you put them in RODI water now, they'd have to go through an adjustment period, and and I think all of our fish will eventually reach a point where they're okay. Uh, Generation after generation after generation, they will reach a point where they're okay with a higher TDS, more calcium water. They go through a period of adjustment as far as diseases go, as far as pathogens go. Very acidic water keeps certain diseases at bay. Jesse says, I want to get an RODI unit. I want to hook it up to a garden hose. Yeah, that's one of the things about RODIs is that they really will produce more quickly with less wastewater if they have a higher pressure on them. But most people solve it by putting a pump in front of the RODI. Fortunately, I have enough PSI on my water that from the tap that I can run mine without a pre-unit, a pre-pump. But I really, and Nisi kind of says it as well. That didn't sit well with me at first as well. I used my house water for all tanks. Then I had a pretty big die off. Now every tank gets RODI water. Yeah, it's you if you're going to use straight tap water on your fish, you need to have a good handle on what's coming out of your tap. And that's the kind of thing that has to be checked every time, because your tap water can suddenly have high chlorine. Jesse says, I need to just bite the bullet and buy one, and that's true. It's a large expense to begin with just to get set up. And I say large expense. You can get a 40-gallon a day, 50-gallon a day unit for a couple $100 now. You just need to look at what the filters are going to cost you to replace later on. I've got a couple of videos out about aftermarket versions of RO membranes and places where you can get them a lot cheaper. Now, Tessie says, I've been using a zero water pitcher to make my RODI water. It's not idea. Tom says, RV filter block, worth it? I'm assuming you're saying RV, but I'm assuming you're meaning UV, ultraviolet filter. Is that what you mean? UV? Joseph's saying that he's keeping his Tetra tanks with no filtration, no air stones, 73 degrees Fahrenheit. Wow. Nisi says, the creek in my backyard connects 7 major lakes. A few miles up the road is a lawn care business. I think they were dumping chemicals in their backyard and it affected my water. Wow. That's sad, Nisi. Alaska, the last frontier and one of the least spoiled places in the United States, and it is being dumped chemicals on by lawn care businesses. Yeah, well, yeah, that's the kind of thing that no one can really predict. You know, that suddenly water they were using from a tap is suddenly been changed by someone dumping into groundwater. You know, that kind of thing. I'm not even sure that a TDS meter that check. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa! A reverse osmosis mobile unit. Ah, I, Tom, I have no experience with that at all. Maybe others here do, but an RV. I've seen a couple of videos where people have set one of those up. Um, now that I realize what it is that you're talking about, I just really have no experience with it at all. Um, I I think I remember watching a video um, where a guy was using one to help filter his rainwater that he was getting. You know, rainwater's got a lot of stuff in it too. And he was using rainwater for his house. And I think he was using one of those RV filter, mobile filters in that rainwater setup. So, uh, right, it doesn't bring the TDS down. And what it won't do either is remove heavy metals, or like Nisi's talking about, some kind of chemical. Uh, Nisi says her hometown has pretty great water. It's a small town of about 4,000. This borough here has about 200,000. There's a lot of Wild West going on here. Yeah, that's the charm and uh, the downside to living out in the country. So I don't know, Nisi, depending on the chemicals, depending on what kind of pesticide it was, whether an actual RODI unit would completely remove that from your water. Nisi's asking Joseph to please, please, please release videos on yours and Amber's channels about the move. I think that would be great to watch both views on your fish move. Yeah. Jesse's saying, yeah, Tom, I no longer use Prime. I still use Prime for treating my tap water. I'm pretty darn careful about how much I use. Joseph says, I hear you. I can't make her make videos, but I will have videos for sure. Jesse, I think it's Joseph that's going to move from the islands to Vermont. Nisi's going to beg Amber to make videos. Making videos is a pretty big leap. Vermont. That's where Amber is. Making videos for some people is a pretty big leap. They don't want to be in the spotlight. They don't want the camera turned on them. They don't want to Joseph says, yeah, I've been trying to put the pressure on her to make videos. The fish come first for her. The fish should come first for all of us, Joseph. If we're keeping fish because the videos come first, we're going at it back asswards, as they say. But a girl can dream. I would hesitate to put pressure on someone to make videos if they're resistant to it. I'd ask them. I would. The fish come first. That was one of the most memorable things about Go Wild Peru was the adamant statement that the fish come first. The fish came first when collecting. The fish came first when changing the water. The fish came first when we got back to camp, base camp, fish camp. The fish came first was the motto there, and I think that's something we can all wrap our heads around. That the fish come first. You know, be the fish. The fish always come first. That's right. If you're in this hobby and the fish comes second or third or fourth, and believe me, we all have lives. We all understand when the motto of the fish comes first has to take a back seat. You know, when it's life, limb, or property, the fish coming first has to take the back seat to the fish keeper staying alive or staying in the property or keeping the lights on. The fish definitely come before YouTube. That's a generalized statement. Hey, Jeremy Morrell, welcome to the stream. The fish definitely come before YouTube. If you're having your fish keeping hobby getting crunchy, if it's slowing down for you, if you're feeling overwhelmed and you are a YouTuber that's trying to meet video deadlines, Jesse says, that being said, I better go feed my fish. If you are a YouTuber who's finding their hobby grinding on them, wearing on them, then take a break on YouTube. We will definitely still be here. We may not individually all still be here when you get back, when you take your time off that you need to. You know, individually, some people may drop out, but the group, the fish fam, the majority of the people, they will continue to support you while you are recharging your batteries, while you are doing the sort of things that you need to. Take Zach's Crazy Aquarium guy. He just put out a video a week or so ago, and he's been missing in action for, what, a year, 8 months? I'm just as happy to go watch his videos now as I was before he left, and I'm glad to see him back. I'm going to support him just like I did before he left, and And we as YouTubers and Fish Fam need to be there to support people who need, for whatever reason. I would definitely recommend it. It's more old school Zach, if you know what I mean. He's basically just slamming it in one take instead of trying to do all the editing and all the stuff that he was, you know, YouTube can get to be its own miserable grind if you're trying to meet deadlines, if you're trying to force out videos when you got nothing to give, if your wife is slamming you, real wife is slamming you, um, finances are bad. You know, Haley's going through this right now, Oddball Aquatics, because her money issues are outweighing her need to put out videos. And I support that 100%. I would much rather her take time off, resolve her financial issues, get her life back in order, so that later on she can come back and 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 do videos again in the kind of manner that suits her. Don't let producing YouTube videos outweigh your own life, your own comfort levels, your own fish keeping needs. The fish come first, obviously way before YouTube videos. Zach's Crazy Aquarium Guy. Somebody can put a link to Zach's channel up. Um, Zach is in um, Sweden. Zach has learned English by watching movies and teaching himself English, and he does an amazing job. Um, he was a chef. I'm not sure exactly what he's doing now. He said he was working 8 days a week and then getting off there. Nisi, the hostess with the mostest, with the Zach's Tank Crazy Aquarium Guy link, I would definitely recommend that everybody get out and check out Zach's latest video, which is a wonderful reintroduction to Zach and his style and his passion. I think passion is a good word in the sense of YouTube, in the sense of Nisi's got a Zach's Tank's Crazy Aquarium Guy t-shirt. I never managed to get one. Stuff like that kind of comes secondary to me. Merchandise. I mean, I appreciate it when I've got it, but it's not the first thing on my mind. I know that it's an excellent way. Crazy Aquarium Gal. There you go, Nisi. I probably am not supporting people by buying their merch as much as I should, and that's a failing on my own part. I guess I weigh the purchase of a t-shirt against the purchase of a fish, or against the purchase of fish food, or something along those lines, and the stuff that I can see in my tanks or that help my fish wins out every time. So I'm not real good about purchasing other people's merch, and I hope that other members of the fish fam can take up my slack. I just I just have we are at the age now where we are on a fixed income. There's no extra coming in. Uh, we bought this car because one of my wife's Nisi, as we all know, Nisi works in a pet store, and so she likes to rep the fish fam with her shirts at work, and that's wonderful, Nisi. Wonderful. Well, I have been driving an old beater truck, work truck, for the last 20 years, or the last 15 years. And that was our second vehicle. And it was getting to the point where I could barely get it started each Wednesday to move it before the street sweeper came. And I would get a ticket if I didn't move it. And my wife's van, which has her wheelchair in it, um, she's not in the wheelchair, but there are times when she needs the wheelchair. So we have to have a vehicle that can carry that wheelchair around. Was our main vehicle, but it's nearing 15 years old now, or I guess it's actually 17 years old now. Yeah, 2002. And while it's a great van and it still runs, it has some serious issues with it. But we need that van to carry her wheelchair and carry her kind of stuff that she gets around. I'm no longer working, so I don't have to have a truck to tote material around with. But we had to wait until one of her retirement retirements came in before we had the wherewithal, along with saving up, to go out and buy a vehicle. And we did not get a new vehicle, but we managed to afford a 2017. And I went for dependability over all else. And from my research, a Toyota Camry was about the most dependable vehicle that I could nail down that I thought would meet our needs. And that money's gone now. So we're back to our fixed income. And for us to go to a fish keeping event, we have to set aside the money a little bit at a time out of our fixed income for a long period of time to do something like that, like my Peru trip that Joseph went with. That required me to save money for almost a year for me to be able to afford to do it, and I still really couldn't afford it. We had to dip into savings to get me there and back. But you need to Yep, that's why I bought one. Nisi, I'm afraid now that we've had it for 3 days and I've driven it several times, I'm beginning to wonder if two 70-year-olds are going to be able to get in and out of that little low hung car comfortably for the next 15 or 20 years. Uh, we may we may regret how low it is to the ground at some point, but everybody said you'll have it till you're bored of it, as long as you keep care of it. It'll be there and running, and that's what we wanted, was something that was going to last us. Something that we could get in and go and drive to Florida if we wanted to and not worry about it. And I think we've got that now. But it required a great deal of financial uh, jockeying and and fortitude to do that, and we have to do the same kinds of things in our fish keeping too. We have to make choices. Yeah, it's much lower. I'm beginning to feel it. I really noticed it when I went grocery shopping in it, and all of the groceries were down in the floorboard in the back seat, and I had to bend over all the way to the ground to get groceries out of the back seat. I found that particularly enlightening as to how low it was. Uh, Kylie's going to be going off to college soon. They grow up fast, Nisi. They grow up so fast. One minute they're in the crib, and the next minute they're out the door. But I think it's pertinent. That, I was talking about buying merch from other people and supporting them. I think it's I think it's something we need to do. I have done it. It's just where I've made my choices. Uh, when you get older, and unless you're just abundantly wealthy on your own, uh, Kylie. Hey, Dan Slee, welcome to the stream. Uh, hey, Chalmskin Productions reboot. Do you watch Simpsons? Um, Reboot. I have watched The Simpsons for a long time, but I think you'll find that my mods will get you if you're just here as a troll, and this is a fish keeping channel. We talk about all kinds of stuff, so talking about The Simpsons is not out of line. One more year. She took an ASVAB test a few days ago. She might join the military. Wow. She's growing up, Nisi. Get all the pictures you can. And Jesse says, not just grocery shopping. Yep. It's handy to have an extra driver, someone who can go pick up the little ones or all right, guys, we're rolling around the 45-minute mark. I just I got off down the wormhole there talking about buying a vehicle as a way of explaining why I don't buy so much merch, my fish keeping money, except when we save up to go to an event, usually goes towards fish keeping stuff. And I think that even though most fish keepers are not on a fixed income, uh, we're all on some kind of a budget. And I think that it's wise to be on some sort of a budget. It's wise to recognize what choices we need to make to maintain that budget, and that we need to recognize that if we need to do a big purchase, like Jesse wanting to get an RODI unit, which I wholeheartedly recommend, that sometimes we need to watch our spending. Sometimes we need to reorganize our budget so that we can shave a few more dollars out of one place and save them over a period of time to add them to something that is a purchase above and beyond what we normally spend. And I think it's good exercise that we understand budgets. It's good exercise that we can learn to adjust our spending in such a way that accommodates unexpected expenses. You know, buying an RODI, having to buy a new car, all those kinds of things are very useful in our fish keeping experiences, so that we recognize what our normal expenditures are, what our normal income is, and when we need to cut back on things so that there is still money in there in our budget for an unexpected expense. We have a tank break. We have a canister filter go out. We have a pump, a large pump go out. We have heaters break. We have heaters fail. Our large air pumps might fail. It's wise as fish keepers to do a budget that fits our lifestyle, that fits our comfort level, that allows us to have some extraneous money that is used specifically. You know, you might be saving it to go somewhere. You might be saving it to attend an event. But if you suddenly have a, you know, in fish keeping terms, catastrophic failure of some sort, that money can be used Macy says, with pet keeping as a hobby, you need to have a budget. My Sassy Go-Go's vet bill a few years ago was $10K. Yeah. You know, having pets, choosing to be a fish keeper, choosing to be a dog owner, choosing to be a cat owner, all of those things can seem very lighthearted and very happy, but they are a responsibility. Those creatures are in our care. They depend on us for their life, the quality of their life, the comfort of their life, their well-being. And when we choose to have a pet, we take on the responsibility of their living. And it's the same thing with fish keeping. When we go and buy a bicker, bicher, however you choose to pronounce it, and I learned bicker a long time ago, and I'm not sure that it's correct, but it's the way I say it. Um, that fish might live 40 years. Or, depending on the species, it might live 20 years. When you go buy a koi, some of those koi can live to be 100 years old. So look at your budget, look at your income, then decide how many pets you can afford. And like Nisi says, you'll have some years where Rufus is going to cost you $5,000 in vet bills. And yeah, you could just let Rufus die and save a lot of money, but I couldn't let one of my kids just die. I would have to spend the money to keep them well, to give them as good a care as possible. And Rufus, my dog, is just like one of my kids in the sense that I'm going to do everything I can to keep that dog well. If he's hurting, if he's in trouble, I'm going to spend the money. The money's much less important to me than the dog's well-being is. And unless you can look at your pets in that manner, unless you can look at your fish in that manner, then maybe pet ownership isn't the thing for you. The Turtle Girl has a video on why she doesn't want certain pets, budget being one of the reasons. Yeah, and it's a very valid reason. It is, you could say that's cold-blooded, that you're just making a decision based solely on money. But that's not what it is, really. It's basing a decision solely on the responsibility of pet ownership, solely on the responsibility that is inherent with deciding that you want to get a Newfie, a Newfoundland, or that you want to get a Shih Tzu, or you want to get a American Bulldog, or you want to get a Mastiff. You need to recognize before you buy those creatures, before you accept one, if someone's offering one to you, you need to understand what the responsibility is. You need to do research as a informed pet owner about that creature and what kind of expenses that creature is going to cost you, and what your budget is, and whether you can literally afford to do that. And it's not as cold-blooded as I'm saying it. Yeah, golden retriever. Almost every type of dog has some hidden illness that they're, all the breeding that's gone on in dogs over the last 60,000 years, all the human intervention into natural dog state. And you can actually say that dog itself is an unnatural state if you follow the lines back through wolves. They all have frailties that sometimes we're not aware of as pet owners. Tom Patterson says, I DIY a lot in fish keeping to keep the cost down. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. That you have a realistic view of what your budget is, that you have a realistic understanding of what your expenses will be, when you go out and buy 30 neon tetras, that you have a realistic expectation of what your cost is going to be when you make that purchase that you weren't expecting. Um, we all get hit by that. We all go into a fish store and see a fish that we've never seen before, that we have no idea what it is, that we have no clue as to what it's going to cost us, and yet we have that gut reaction that we have to have that fish. That cost doesn't matter, that what it requires doesn't matter, that we'll go home and get on the internet and figure out what all that's required. Hey, Sharpie's Model and Aquatics, welcome to the stream. We're closing in on the end of the hour, but we're glad to have you with us. Nisi says, but what is natural in this current time? We live in artificial homes, eat man-made food ingredients, are friends with people we've never met in real life. Yeah, I hear your point, Nisi. Everything's contrived these days, but I'm old school, so it's kind of hard for me to let go of the things that I grew up with comfortably with. I'm perfectly at home on the internet. I'm perfectly at home, but unlike some people, you see me using my actual name because I don't want to hide behind anonymity. I don't want to be anonymous on the internet. I say a lot of very opinionated things. I have a lot of very opinionated stances, but I put my name behind them. I'm not going to be some ghost on the internet making wild statements and not being willing to back them up from a personal sense. So there's some old school things that I'm willing to modify, that I enjoy being newfangled. There's some things that I still hold on to, that I still can't really let go of. It's modern life is a huge mixed bag. It's got some remarkable advancements, and it's got some horrible advancements. So, hey Pam, welcome to the stream. I'm glad you didn't miss me. As we say in the sticks, I'm proud you got a chance to see me, even if I'm gonna shut it down as soon as I say hi bye. It's always good to have you drop by, Pam. Nisi, I fully agree with your what's natural statement. Generalizations are always faulty. Generally, all generalizations are always generally faulty, which is about as useless a thing as you can say. But I still think there's enough. If we let our dogs go, and this is getting back to the point that you made that statement about, if we let our dogs go into the wild and left them there for 1,000 generations with no human interaction, they would still survive. because there's enough of the wolf still in them that they'd figure it out. They'd get to where they could survive on their own. Now, some breeds might not make it, but I think it would be surprising, the breeds that would make it, and that they would crossbreed with each other in the wild over a period of 100,000 years, and that what we would find if we went back into those woods after 100,000 years would probably look pretty close to what wolves look like when humans when humans first started domesticating them and breeding them for certain specific traits that they liked. So while our modern world is full of things that are unnatural in the sense of our modern world is full of many things that are modernly unnatural. There is still enough basis in a lot of them, some not, but a lot of them that we can trace back to the roots on stuff like that. And I just, my point is that as a fish keeper, as a YouTube fish keeper, you need to understand balance. You need to have balance in your life, in your fish keeping, in your YouTube engagement, and you need to be able to recognize when the fish keeping has whacked out the budget and that you need to scale back on the fish keeping to keep the budget in line. You need to be able to recognize when the YouTube is whacking out both the budget and the fish keeping, or when YouTube is whacking out the fish keeping, so that you can scale back on the YouTube so that you can get the fish keeping and the budget back into line. And the point I'm trying to make here is the fish fam's still going to be here. I may not be here. Nisi may not be here. Joseph may not be here. Pam may not be here. But the fish fam as a whole will be here to support you when you come back. And you need to understand that. Now, if you're running a business, if your business bottom line depends on your YouTube engagement, then that's a different kettle of fish. Then suddenly your budget depends on your YouTube time. And maybe what you need to scale back on is the fish keeping side of things so that your business and your YouTube can work together to bring your budget back into line. But most of us are not running a business over the internet. That's not our livelihood. You know, if it is your livelihood, then that changes the whole picture. But I'm just talking about before you get a pet, you need to understand budget and pet responsibility so that you can juggle whether it's possible for you to keep that pet, for you to fully be ready to take care of that pet. All right, guys. Thank you for spending a little bit of your time here with me on a Saturday afternoon. I once again stress that everyone in the chat should check out each other's channels if you don't already know them. Um, Good luck with your fish keeping, and I hope you guys have a good rest of the weekend. Arrivederci. I should have a video snip of Jack LaLanne singing "It's Time to Leave You" that I could play after the end of each episode. Good luck, guys.